That's pretty creepy.
And he followed it up trying to explain why, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. How could you mean it? You called a 7-year-old girl hot. This is not... Yeah.
Well, actually, my wife made me take all the pictures of my kids off, and now the only pictures that go on are the ones that she tags our kids in. So she's already approved them for being on my Facebook page. I actually had a really bizarre stalker identity theft incident involving me and Brian Keene. We had a mutual fan. I think his screen name was Zombie Dirge, and because he did a bunch of illegal stuff, I had no problem putting his screen name out there. What happened was, I'd been talking to this guy for about 2 years, and I noticed that, he lied a lot. If I said, oh yeah, I was in Japan, oh yeah, I was in Japan too. Oh yeah, I used to do this, oh yeah, I did that too, that kind of stuff. Harmless, so I never thought anything of it. Well, one day I got an email from Brian Keene going, we have a mutual stalker, and he has stolen both of our identities. And I said, really? And he put a link to the guy's webpage, and Brian, anyone who knows him, goes, my lawyers are already on this. So I went to the page, and he had taken screenshots of our books, deleted our names from them, and put his name on it. He had taken some of my blog posts and put his name on it. He even took my bio and changed it to be his bio.
He's not right to him.
What's that?
He's never
exactly. So, and that's what's hilarious, is my bio, I used to be an MMA fighter and things like that. So he in his bio, he's a former MMA fighter. And then he had done the same thing with some of Brian's blog posts and some of Brian's books, and it was very, very bizarre. And me being me, anyone who knows me, I was flattered. I was like, that's awesome. Exactly. But Brian, being Brian, was enraged. He was foaming at the mouth. I mean, he wanted to get at this guy's throat. And the guy sent out emails, I am so sorry. But it was very bizarre. It was very, and I had, like I said, I had been communicating with this guy for a couple of years, and I always knew he was weird, but he bought all my books. So.
For me, it's been less specific incidents like that. I've done a lot of kind of stories. Actually, after Jim told me that story a while back about his encounter, I have a different issue. That my kids are very small. They're three-year-old twins, and I'm the primary caretaker and stuff. So I'm constantly snapping pictures of them, and I constantly want to. And most of my socialization is online, which is maybe something that could come up here. Is that part of the challenge here is it's one thing if you're not somebody who's online constantly, and that's not where you're living your social life, and it's just this thing that you do on the side. It's much easier to control than if you're somebody who, most of my friendships, as pathetic as this sounds now, are online. I was living in New York City for many years with a lot of other writer friends around me, and when my wife and I had kids, we moved back to Michigan, where I grew up. Much more socially isolated now, and so a lot of the interaction that I do just day to day is online. And so that gets into this weird thing where it's like I want to talk about my kids because I'm hanging out with my friends, but not in a completely private space. I mean, it's easy to forget that it's not a private space where you're doing it. So I'm still struggling with how, because I can't ask my kids, do you want your picture up here or not? They're free. I can ask them if they don't want to get it. And so that's kind of that's a question I'm still sorting out. And at this point, I just ask them, put his pictures up, and she's usually fine with it. I haven't had anything really weird like that happen. What happens with me more often is I tend to get political online a fair amount, and I'm pretty Arab American, Muslim American, and very vocally anti-war, pretty vocally left-wing, and so you get these people who don't know anything about who you are as a person, who's never maybe had much of an interaction. It's almost the opposite of this kind of micro-stalking where they're really learning who you are and obsessing over your individual life, and almost the opposite, they just come up with this label, you know, and they slap it on you, and then they're angry at that label, having no interaction with you as an actual individual. And so, you know, I've gotten a good number of hate emails that are essentially like, I mean, literally people are this stupid, you know, oh, you think you're going to, you know, this is part of the Islamicization of America, you know, this whole crowd that thinks we're all one step from Sharia law for everybody, right? And I get these emails from these people who think that I'm part of that problem, that I'm trying to convert all of America forcibly into Islam, and that's why I wrote a Dungeons and Dragons-y fantasy novel, because that would be a really effective way to do that, right? But you know, and it's like I'm such a smart ass, and you know, usually just roll with things, and I've, you know, grown up with this racism my whole life. Like the Arab community center that I grew up around in our neighborhood got burned to the ground twice, you know, so it's like I'm very used to, you know, people will call our house and, you know, 8 years old, picking up the phone and somebody saying, oh, you didn't understand that? Well, you're a American, you should have understood it. Oh, saying horrible things. You know, so these real physical manifestations of hate. I've seen enough of those that the kind of online stuff doesn't sometimes take on the reality that it should, and I just say, oh, whatever, you know, this guy's an idiot. But the more it happens, the more you kind of start to sit there and think, but it only takes one fixated idiot with a, you know, whose grudge goes a little bit over the line before, you know, you could end up in trouble. And it's really, it has a little bit of a chilling effect on some of the things you say, but just keep going on, I guess.
Well, I have something of a unique perspective here because I've been involved, quote unquote, stalking on 3 different levels. I've investigated stalking professionally, I've been stalked, and I am a stalker as an investigator. Not in the creepy sort of way, but
No,
part of
good.
my job
That can be
is.
creepy.
Well, yeah. Little side note with that, when I first started as an investigator about 20 years ago, one of the first things I learned how to do was how to trace people online. And this is back before Facebook and MySpace and stuff like that. It was a little bit harder. And there was this local message board for our internet provider. We had a mom and pop internet provider for our area. And they had a message board there, and I started, on the commercial end of things, started promoting my business. And there was a guy that came on there and posted a comment such that, well, anything you do online is anonymous. You can be anybody you want. Within 90 minutes, literally, I was knocking on his front door. And I introduced myself, and you could hear his butt pucker shut. The echo off the trees. It was outstanding. It was one of my proudest moments as an investigator. I get some very interesting phone calls at the office from people who are being stalked or think they're being stalked, online and offline. I had a woman call me a couple years ago who was utterly convinced that people were installing transmitters on her roof to monitor her thoughts. And part of the reason she thought this was she came home from work one day and there was a footprint on her garage door, about 4 feet up from the ground. She, in all honesty, thought somebody had literally walked up the side of her house like Spider-Man and went out and installed this thing. After listening to her for about 45 minutes, I very politely said, ma'am, I am not professionally qualified to give you the help you need. Have a good day.